And Brandon, let's close out, well, not close out the podcast. We still got our picks coming up next. If you're on podcast services around the world, if you're on YouTube, we've already done them, so you can go ahead and see them. But our last real topic for the week is looking ahead at a game that will be going on this week. Right now, Clemson is still number 2. We'll see if that changes. Probably not in the rankings that'll come out tomorrow, because I will say that kind of a PSA aside, not really a PSA, just an aside to you guys. That's the only thing I hate about this first week of the college football season is usually because games end on Saturday, usually then Sunday they come out with the rankings. Well, because of that one game today between Virginia Tech and Florida State, rankings aren't going to come out until the day after we do our podcast. So even our picks are kind of messed up with the top 25 because we're using last week's top 25 because the new one has not come out yet. But we are looking at the game between the Clemson Tigers and the Texas A&M Aggies. And in their first game, I mean, they both didn't play anybody of any real significance. Where Furman went into Death Valley, they lost 48-7. And then you had Northwestern State go into College Station. They lost 59-7. And everyone was all crazy about the Texas A&M Aggies on Thursday night. Look at how good they look under Jimbo Fisher. They look so good. Look at this. And I'm sitting there going, look at who they're playing. Like, come on. They're going to get their first real test this week. The interesting thing with Clemson, though, Brandon, is something that we might have predicted might be coming to fruition, as it looks like both Trevor Lawrence and Kelly Bryant will play in the second game of the year for the Clemson Tigers this week against the Aggies. I'm going to ask you, though, with everything going on with this game, will the Aggies upset the Tigers this weekend?
No, they will not. A big part of why the Aggies played so well against Northwestern State, other than the fact that it was Northwestern State, was that they ran the ball 61 times for 503 yards and 5 touchdowns. If you did that against Clemson, I would fall down, passed out. I mean, as I think many other people would. Every single Clemson fan would have to go out and get a new TV because it would be broken. I mean, that is not going to happen.
It would be broken.
That is not going to happen against this Clemson team. There's no way. Clemson last week, they gave up only 117 yards on the ground against, again, Furman. I get it, but that's just not going to happen. I mean, you had your top guys, your Christian Wilkins and Clellan Ferrell, who had sack, tackle for a loss, number of tackles. It was, your top guys on your top defense were definitely showing up, and they'll show up against Texas A&M as well. I don't actually think this game will be all that close. It'll be fun to talk about because of the rivalry, because it's Jimbo and this and that and stuff like that. I think it'll be fun to talk, but once it comes down to it, once the game is played, I don't think that we're going to see anything that we weren't expecting to see. Quite honestly, I really don't. I think Clemson did on their end, and again, we've talked about it so many times already on this podcast. Neither team, Clemson nor Texas A&M, were really truly tested at all. But Clemson's passing game, they look great. Trevor Lawrence looks like the real deal. And Trevor Lawrence looks like he's going to be unseating Kelly Bryant.
Well, and that's the thing I was going to say. The thing that I find funny is you look at both Bryant and Lawrence, they have kind of similar numbers in some sense. Like Lawrence only goes 9 of 15. If he would have threw one more pass and completed it, would have been 10 of 16 like Kelly Bryant was. Lawrence only had 10 more yards through the air than Bryant. But the thing that jumps out to me, and some people may say, well, Ricky, it might be situations in the game, but against Furman, who both quarterbacks had their time against Furman, Kelly Bryant only scored 1 touchdown. Trevor Lawrence scored 3 touchdowns.
And they scored on all 5 of the drives that he was in there, they scored on every single one with Lawrence.
And let's just go back to the first segment for a second. One of the big things you criticized Michigan and Shea Patterson for was not putting points up on the board. Last time I checked, if I replay the tape from that segment, you win games by scoring points. Boom, thanks John Madden. Lawrence should be your starter. Like, there's no reason why Taylor Lawrence shouldn't be the starter against Clemson. What I am kind of thinking for this one is, this is what I'm thinking. Does Texas A&M have a shot to upset Clemson? Yes. And the reason why I say yes is because
you want to be nice.
No. It's not just that. It's you can take, like, it's any given Saturday. Look at what with Penn State and Appalachian State. Number 2, it's at Texas A&M. It's in College Station. Right there, move the football over a little bit to the Texas A&M side. However, my X factor for this game is that Clemson defense. If Clemson's defense wasn't what it was coming into this year, I may go with an upset special in this one. But
who knows? Maybe you still do.
No, I'm spoiling it. I can't go against Clemson. I wanted to. I was coming into this podcast. I was like, I'm picking Texas A&M. And then I was thinking about it. And after you said defense, I went, hey, they do have a pretty good defense. That's how I talk in my head. And I was like, I can't go against the Clemson Tigers. I can't in this one. However, I'm not saying the Aggies don't have a shot to, because if they play anywhere near like they did last week, then they'll have a shot. Am I saying they're going to have the same amount of production on the ground in the same exact game? No. But if Mond can play well, if Starkel can play well, if they play both of them, if Travion Williams, like, he blew up on Thursday night. It's like, if you didn't know who Travion Williams was coming into this college season, you found out in that game. And I'm not saying he's going to have near 250 yards, but if he can provide a solid rushing presence and this offense can wear down that defense of Clemson, get this crowd into the game, then those are the ingredients for an upset in College Station. The thing that I'm thinking, though, in this one is Clemson gets the win, but I will say on the Clemson side, Kelly Bryant will struggle. Trevor Lawrence will shine. They'll win the game closer than people think because of Trevor Lawrence. He will win the job going into the rest of the season.
I think that's an easy thing to say, and Trevor Lawrence should have been the starter on opening in the opening game.
He should have only played. Like, Kelly Bryant shouldn't have played until it was like 55-2.
I'll be honest with you. Thanks, Kelly Bryant, but there's no need for you anymore. It's time for Trevor Lawrence to do his thing. He's the better quarterback, and that's what you want. You want to be playing the better player. Kelly Bryant was serviceable, and that's what I've been saying the entire time. I really wasn't all that thrilled with him last year. He was okay, but, I mean, anyone's going to say that he's okay and be able to get them to the college football playoff. They're going to say, well, he was better than okay. You got to the college football. No. I mean, you had, again, your defense. Clemson thrives on their defense.
Defense, one of the top coaches in college football. It's like, it wasn't just your quarterback.
Exactly. But I think this year, their defense, which is grade A plus, to go with Trevor Lawrence, an outstanding quarterback, to go with a running game that can move the ball. ETN can move the ball. Feaster, he only had 3 carries, but he can move the ball. And I think those are pieces for a recipe for success. And another thing, going to Texas A&M, they held the ball for 41 minutes in that game against Northwestern State. 41 minutes. Northwestern State didn't even have it for 20. That is not going to happen against Clemson. They're not going to have the ball that long. They're not going to hold the ball for 41 minutes in the ball game. That's not going to happen. And Clemson's defense is the real deal. A big piece of why Texas A&M did so well is because of their running game. They scored 5 touchdowns on the ground. They had over 500 yards. That is not going to happen. Clemson is going to be able to put a lot of pressure on their offensive line. They're going to win the battle in the trenches. They are not going to succeed by running the football, Texas A&M, I don't think. So they're going to have to turn to the air, and a lot more pressure will be put on Kellen Mond.
I also got a little bit of ammunition for the people that you might have said might have gone against you with the Kelly Bryant thing, where, oh, he's a good quarterback. He got us to the college football playoff. Yeah, but with Clemson, getting to the college football playoff is not the problem. It's what do you do once you're there. When you have a quarterback on the same level of Deshaun Watson, yeah, they lost, but you put 40 points up against Alabama, and you lost, but you almost beat them in that year. The next year, with Deshaun Watson, you put 35 points up on them, and you win by 4 points. Last year, with Kelly Bryant, you go up against Alabama, you put 6 points on the board, and you lose 24-6 in a game that nobody watched after that Georgia-Oklahoma game. Like, people,
do you remember that game?
People started to watch it, and then people were like, people were starting to watch it, like, oh my God, if we get a game anywhere near, well, this one's boring. And then they walked out of the room. They're like, I'm going to go get dinner.
Do you remember that, though?
Exactly.
We watched it.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I watch a lot of the games together and stuff. And
it was a thrilling Rose Bowl, and then
Yes.
Kind of
I mean, we were so excited. I was coming over to your house, so excited after that Georgia Oklahoma game. It was
couldn't remember anything
nice.
of it.
And then you got the clunker with Clemson, the Clemson clunker.
Because we were expecting part 3, but Deshaun Watson wasn't there.
But I really do think, to your point, Ricky, with Trevor Lawrence, Clemson may have their national. They may have their national title team right there. With Trevor Lawrence at the helm, with this defense, with a very above-average running game, serviceable wide receivers, this is a team that should have no problem making it to the playoffs, and this is a team that everyone should fear in the playoffs.
Well, and that's the main reason why in this one, I say the Aggies are not going to upset the Clemson Tigers because, like I said, I already kind of gave my prediction of it, but like, I don't think Kelly Bryant does super well in this one. And I think it's one of those, even if he starts the game, I know that like the whole Nick Saban thing, like, oh, I don't know who's going to start kind of a thing. If Kelly Bryant starts it, it's going to be short-lived. And for me, it's going to be, wow, he's struggling against this Texas A&M team. Hey, get Lawrence in there. And Lawrence is going to come in. He's going to command that offense. Will he have a ton of yards? Maybe not. But the one thing he's going to be able to do, and like you said, on 5, I believe it was what you said, 5 drives that he was in, they scored on every one. He's going to be able to, maybe if he doesn't do that same thing and like maybe one of those drives they don't score, he's going to get into the end zone, though, with this offense a lot more than Kelly Bryant. And for me, it's going to be the only thing that kind of the main thing Clemson has to do is take the wind out of the sails of Texas A&M early because it is on the road. Basically, what Clemson has to do, and they know this. Dabo Swinney knows this. It's not like I'm saying anything profound and like insider information that no one knows about. But they have to come out. They have to set the tone. They basically have to take those fans at College Station out of the game. Take the wind and the everything out of that stadium so that you can thrive. If you start giving Texas A&M some momentum, if you let those fans stay in it, then that's where it might get a little chippy or a little bit of a closer game than some might think for Clemson if they let those fans at College Station stay in the game by giving the Aggies some momentum.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Clemson has to come right in and just put up points right away. Put up points right away.
Because this isn't Kevin Sumlin, Texas A&M. This ain't 8 wins and we're happy. This is Jimbo Fisher we're talking about.
I think that again, the storyline will be Jimbo Fisher and him coming back and the rivalry that used to be that used to be with him and Dabo Swinney. Yeah, the ACC rivalry there when he was at Florida State. But there is not going to be much that I think goes past that that point alone for there to be any more talk about how this could be some sort of rivalry because Clemson just seems to have better players. And for anyone that's saying, well, Brandon and Ricky, you guys didn't get all excited and stuff like that when teams were playing other schools and stuff, like how Clemson played Furman, and we talk about they're really going to be the but everyone already had Clemson pegged as being a playoff team.
Yeah,
it's Clemson. It's the Clemson Tigers,
a perennial powerhouse this year.
Exactly. And I think that what I'm more excited about is the fact that Trevor Lawrence came into that ball game and he was outstanding. There really was no struggle from him. Now, I don't think that Trevor Lawrence is the next coming of Christ by any means, and that everything he does is going to be amazing, and he will not throw an interception, he will not have a fumble, he will not have a mistake.
He'll falter at some point.
I mean, he's a freshman. He's a true freshman. He will have his moments where Dabo's going to have to pull him inside and say, okay, it's not what we wanted. This is how it has to be done. This is how you got to do it, stuff like that. That is normal, but Trevor Lawrence is on a better trajectory path than Kelly Bryant will be ever. And that's why if you're Clemson, if you're Dabo Swinney, you want to play the best players that you can. That's why you get them. That's why you go and recruit them. Trevor Lawrence is that guy. You've seen that now. And again, it is very important you don't have to be, Trevor Lawrence doesn't have to be the one that throws the touchdown each drive. There just has to be points that come out of them because of how he led them down the field. That's what the important thing is, and that's what he showed this past weekend against Furman.
Let me put it this way. I'm going to compare it to kind of like I think it was the LSU segment, you compared it to NFL Mitch Trubisky. I'm going to compare it to NFL New York Jets. The Jets had a decision this year. Do we go with Sam Darnold, the young rook, who will be starting Monday night against the Detroit Lions, or do we go with the proven kind of journeyman veteran of Josh McCown? And they went with the young rook. They're going to start Sam Darnold because the ceiling for Sam Darnold is higher than Josh McCown. Journeyman quarterback, 3rd overall pick in the draft rookie. Like, that's where the ceilings are. Even though McCown, the floor might be here, whereas Darnold's floor might be here just because of where they are in their career. That's what Clemson is facing right now. Yes, Kelly Bryant might be here, while Trevor Lawrence is here, slightly above Trevor Lawrence. But the ceiling, which is the roof, by the way, is higher for Trevor than it is for Kelly. And that's why I think that eventually, maybe after this game, hopefully after this game, Trevor then is the starter, so then Clemson can move on, knowing, all right, this is our starting quarterback. Because if you look at their schedule, it's not quite like Michigan where they're playing, boom, right away in week 3, but it's like, you got Texas A&M this week that, I'm going to say, it could be an upset. If that defense wasn't what it was, I might be switching over and making an upset special. The defense,
but thank God the defense is what it is. The defense
is the only thing that is still making me say, yes, Clemson will win for sure, but I can't count out an upset from the Texas A&M Aggies. But the good thing for Clemson is they get Georgia Southern the week after, then they play their tough game against Georgia Tech. And how I think everything is going to play out, and this is how I'll end it before I let you give your final thoughts, is in this game against Texas A&M, it's either going to go one of two ways. It's either going to go the way of, if an upset happens, Texas A&M rolls from the start, the crowd never gets out of the game, and Texas A&M wins it close. Or what I think will happen, Kelly Bryant will start, he will struggle, Trevor Lawrence will come in, the defense will keep Clemson in the game, Trevor Lawrence will come in, they'll start scoring, bing, 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 take the fans out of the game, run away with it, and they'll win probably a 2-3 score game. Then in week 3, all right, Trevor Lawrence is our starter. They blow out Georgia Southern, and then with a full game under his belt, Trevor Lawrence will be prepared to start at Georgia Tech in Clemson's 4th game. That's kind of how I see the next game and then 2 games this season kind of going for Clemson and kind of their quarterback situation.
I think you could be right there. Dabo Swinney already said that both quarterbacks are going to get playing time this week against Texas A&M. So I'm assuming it'll be Bryant that probably starts. And I think that kind of what you said, the kind of plan that you put together, I think it makes sense. I think that's similar to what we probably will see. And I think that Trevor Lawrence, sooner than later, will be the starting quarterback for the Clemson Tigers, and he'll be taking this team for the rest of the season.
Anything else you feel like we should mention before we move on into our picks for this year?
I know we talked a lot about
for this week.
I know we talked a lot about Clemson in this one. Texas A&M, while I think that they will probably lose this game, I think that Texas A&M will be an improved team this season, and they will look better for their fans. Having Jimbo Fisher at the helm, and I think working with Kellen Mond, who did look good last week against Northwestern State, this team they will be better. They have been perennially, it seems like, 8-5 for a number of years now, but they will be picking themselves, I think, out of that hole and getting better very soon.
Well, this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you think down below in that comment section. Will the Aggies upset the Clemson Tigers? Could they upset the Clemson Tigers? And how do you see this quarterback situation playing out for Clemson this week and then into the future? Let us know what you think down below in that comment section.